Hello there, welcome back to the Closet Historian. Today I'm going to be going into my essentials of vintage style for the fall and winter season. Here on the channel I have gone into my summer essentials before, and also my accessory essentials and my just essentials of vintage style in general. Once you start saying essentials too many times, it just gets hard to say essentials. But today we're going to be going into the things that I pull out every fall and winter season. I am going to combine these two just because I don't have a lot of difference for me personally between my fall and winter wardrobe. Basically, it's just, it's about adding more layers when it gets really, really cold in the wintertime, but my essentials kind of remain the same for both of these seasons, so forgive me if you're in a very frigid climate. Fortunately for me, while it does snow where I live here in Colorado, it doesn't get crazy winter-tastic out there usually. Sometimes we'll get, a serious blizzard, but usually it only lasts a few days, and the sun comes out here in Colorado and melts the snow quite quickly, even in wintertime, so we are lucky in that regard. Which is all just to say I will not be doing a separate winter essentials video, so I'm sorry for those of you who do live in more frigid temperatures. I'm just not, personally, I'm not very knowledgeable about layering for that kind of weather, I suppose. I just, I don't deal with it myself, so I'm not an expert in that regard. Not that I'm an expert in many regards, but I will pretend to be as we go through the rest of this video. And the first item on my list of fall and winter essentials is going to be black tights. Now, this should come as a shock to no one because, of course, black tights are essential. If you're wearing skirts and dresses through the fall and winter, you probably have black tights no matter your style, vintage or not. But for me, I do tend to lean a little bit more gothic or like darker or noir kind of themed in the fall and winter with my style, and so adding black tights isn't that, much of a stretch. I'm not sure how accurate black tights really are for the 40s and 50s, but they are something I incorporate into my wardrobe and try and make work with my vintage style just because they are so essential when it's quite, snippy outside, when it's quite cold out there. You want to have some sort of covering on your legs. I will also just switch over to wearing, sometimes in the summertime I will, go bare-legged, shocking, but then also I will wear like nude colored fishnets and things like that, things that are very breathable. But I will switch over to old-fashioned back-seamed pantyhose in the fall and winter time. Usually I'll get those at What Katie Did. I will put the link to them in the description below. They make really great back-seamed tights for those of you who do not, perhaps like myself, do not want to wear a garter belt and stockings. That's just kind of too much for me. I prefer a nice, control top tight instead. That I just feel like that's easier. These are, however, just as fragile as any other nylons really, so it's really easy to get a run in them, and they are quite expensive. So I do try and be quite careful with those, and sometimes I just don't want to fuss with it. So building an outfit around black tights on a very cold day, sometimes it's just easier. So I've just shown black tights styled here with a little black dress for a sort of all black outfit. I always think black tights with a whole black outfit, an all black looks chic to me. I always think it looks nice. Perhaps that is my slightly gothic tendencies, but I just think it's a very chic, crisp look, and I think all black like this looks nice. Also too, if you pair black tights with black suede shoes, the shoes almost like blend right into the tights, like in this outfit. So you really create a quite long line on the leg silhouette-wise when you have that suede shoe going into a black tight. It's all like matte black from like the knee down, and it is a little bit elongating, I think. And this outfit is very fun because it's kind of a twist on the classic plaid skirt and simple sweater look that is very common from like anywhere from the 40s through the 60s really. But this one, of course, is a little bit different because this skirt is from the 80s and is nice and bright purple, which is always fun. And sticking with black, the next item on my list is going to be my black velvet accessory set. So technically this is several items because it's a few different things. I have a black velvet little hat, a belt. I have a little bag that I'm not showing here because it's more of an evening bag. I think you can pair black suede shoes with velvet accessories unless you have black velvet shoes, in which case that sounds divine, honestly. But like gloves, hat, belt, bag, how I collect accessories and sets if you've been here around on the channel for a little while. I have a whole video explaining it. I'll put a card up to my accessory video where I talk about my strategy for this. But I like having this set to pair with lots of different outfits in the fall and winter time. I think it adds a sort of Halloween, witchy vibe or like medieval kind of vibe to outfits in the fall. And I think it can go holiday really easy for like the end of fall and into winter, going into like Christmas party season, things like that. Adding black velvet accessories to a more simple outfit, I think, can really elevate it to more of a holiday or like a little bit more special of a look, I think. So I definitely wear my black velvet accessories a lot in the fall and winter. They're certainly an essential for me. The third item on my list is going to be plaid wool skirts. Of course, I like the pleated versions of this. I like A-line versions of this. I just like wool skirts in general, but especially tartan plaid ones, because I do find plaid a really fun, traditional, very fall sort of, trip to the Highlands sort of themed fabric in general. It just lends a really nice vibe, I guess, a very fall vibe. And they are very easy to style because when you have a plaid like this one, say like red, navy, and green, you can pull out a green sweater to match with it. You can pull out the navy, the red, you can pair them with different things, and therefore you can only need to have one skirt. You can make many outfits from it, so that's really quite nice. And then you can use even other colors from the tartan to like use as accessories. So pull like the main color, use that for your sweater or your jacket or cardigan, whatever you're wearing with the sweater or with the skirt, and then use one of the other colors as the accent with accessories. I think that's a fun way to style these two. So I find them easy to style and then really, of course, traditionally very fall-tastic. So can't get through fall and winter without some plaid wool skirts. And wool, of course, will keep you quite warm, especially when the rest of your leg from the knee down perhaps is kind of exposed. And speaking of wool, the next item on my list is going to be wool dresses. That's right, dresses made from wool. You can not only can you have skirts, but you can have an entire dress made with wool fabric, especially things like wool suiting fabric or wool like gabardines, wool crepes, which are quite nice and a little bit more on the expensive side. This dress here is actually made of a wool flannel that I bought at a discount fabric store, so sorry I can't link you to it, but this dress is probably my coziest dress in my entire wardrobe. It's very, very warm, especially here in front of these studio lighting, but very good for very snowy days when I still want to look sort of lumberjill chic out there in the world in this buffalo plaid. But I think that's the biggest tip I have for staying warm while still wanting to wear skirts and dresses in the fall and winter time, and that is to make sure you have them in wool. Either if you thrifting dresses, shopping online, vintage. I know a lot of modern dresses are just made of polyester. They don't make really nice wool garments anymore. It's kind of harder to find. So learning to sew, finding yourself a seamstress friend who will help you out, that's going to be a good way to get wool dresses like this. Unfortunately, you know, I don't have any I can recommend to you because I do just sew my own, but I have this dress and I have another dress in brown wool. I'll try and put a clip in here of that one as well from last year that really do keep me warm when I still want to look very, very vintage on a very cold day. And sticking with wool, once again, my next item are going to be my vintage suits. I think we know here on this channel how much I love some vintage suiting, 1940s and 50s suiting to be specific. I love vintage suits. They're my favorite thing to shop for. I actually got a discount on a suit recently because I made a beeline for them in the vintage shop, and they said no one ever makes a beeline for the suiting, so they would give me like $15 off, and I was like, I'm glad this obsession is literally getting me a discount on them now, so that was very friendly of them. But of course, the greatest thing about suits is that you can wear them together, matching, and feel very chic and put together, or you can split the suit up for even more versatility, so you can wear the jacket with a different skirt, or the skirt with a different jacket, and you are instantly creating more outfits just because of that one item that you invested in. And vintage suiting can be quite the investment, I know. Usually I pay anywhere from around $100 to $250 for a vintage suit in really good condition. I am kind of a rarer size as well, the larger sizes. Sometimes they price them higher because they know, vintage sellers know that they are rarer, which I know isn't the fairest of things, but that's just the way the market works, you know? It's all about supply and demand out there, and I surprisingly, in vintage stores, it seems like they're not in high demand, but they're high demand in my wardrobe, so I'm always looking out for vintage suiting. I just love vintage suits. They're an absolute essential for me any time of year, but especially, of course, in fall and winter where they will keep me warm. And as far as styling your vintage suiting, I do think something that comes in handy are wool berets. Of course, I love all hats, as we know here on this channel, and I love matching accessory sets, so I just wanted to show you a couple of my berets paired with coordinating scarves and gloves, which is how I like to style these things with this one suit. So here I have navy blue accessories, including a navy beret that I picked up on my last trip to Paris. Nice flex there. Here with this suit, and then also with a orange beret and gloves and a coordinating scarf, and then also with a red kind of coordinating accessory set. This is why I like having matching accessory sets, because they just really lend a very balanced look to an outfit so quickly. So if I want to make the suit look quite different than the last time I wore it, you know, I can wear it with navy one time and wear it with red the next, and it gives me a much fresher look on the same suit over and over again. So if you can only afford to invest perhaps in one vintage suit, you can style it many different ways by adding different colors of beret hat, gloves, scarves, things like that. They're much less expensive to invest in the accessory sets usually, because you can find, you know, a scarf for $1.99 at the thrift store, a beret for $3 on Amazon. You know, you can collect the accessories for a lot less than the suiting itself. So it's good to have options for styling your more expensive or like rarer pieces like your suits, coats, even like wool vintage dresses are going to be quite expensive. So being able to style them in new ways is very handy for getting you through in fall and winter. And my berets, gloves, scarves are all major essentials for me through the fall and winter season. And the last item on my list for today is going to be a coat. No surprise there. In the fall and winter, you're going to want to get yourself a coat. Of course, you can buy a modern coat, use your modern coat, whatever you would like, but I suggest finding yourself a vintage coat in the era of your choice. If you usually wear 40s or 50s or 60s things, finding a coat from that era will really help, you continue your vintage style even in the coldest of seasons. You can always be like wearing a very warm modern outfit underneath a vintage coat too if you're going anywhere. Let's say there's like an outdoor Christmas market, which is going to be cold. Even if you're wearing like many, many layers of modern things underneath. If you have a vintage coat over the top and your red lipstick on, you're still going to look quite cute out and about. So I invested in this 1940s coat a couple of years ago. It is wool. It is very heavy. In fact, this coat is missing its, it had a separate liner that could be zipped into it, which it's lost in time. But the fact that this coat is so heavy already that there was a separate liner to it that you could put in, shocks me, because this coat already weighs like 15 pounds. The thing's so heavy. I can't even imagine how warm it would be if it had another layer going on. But I do love this coat. I think it was around $200 when I invested in it. I bought this on Etsy, but it's in great condition and it's just super cute with that nipped in waist, and all the seaming on this is just beautiful. So, the quality of vintage clothing really can't be matched by anything else. And again, this is another investment kind of piece, but I think so worth it, especially if you live in a colder climate and you're quite devoted to vintage style, as say I am. That's how this became such an essential for me. Of course, there are a couple of vintage reproduction companies out there that do make coats as well. Collectif is the main one I can think of. I think Hell Bunny Vintage might make coats too. I can't really remember off the top of my head who's out there making replica coats, but a princess coat is usually, very fun. And I know Collectif do them every year. So if you're interested in a vintage style coat, but don't necessarily want to buy a vintage one, look into the reproduction companies as well. I'm sure maybe Emmy Design Sweden has done a coat. I can't really remember. But usually a lot of the repro companies will try and bring out at least one jacket or coat for the winter season because they know people are looking for them naturally. But the other tip I have for finding vintage style coats is to go look at the thrift store, because a lot of 1980s things, again, like all aspects of 80s fashion, called back to 1940s and 50s fashion. So you can often find a big oversized 80s coat that works very well for the 40s. I'll put some images of 1940s coats here so you can see how bulky and oversized sometimes they were. So you can really get away with styling a 1980s coat to look vintage. I think the styles are very similar, and you can usually find them at the thrift store for really quite cheap. I think I got 2 all wool, fully lined, really nice coats last year for like $8 and $10 or something like that at the thrift store. One I think was like half off, so it was like $3 for a nice wool coat. So it's definitely worth going and checking the thrift store for things like this. If you pick up a coat for $3 and it costs $20 to get it dry cleaned, that's still only like a $25 coat in the end, and that's a really good price for something that's going to last you a long time and really get you through those colder months. So those are my essentials for my fall and winter vintage style wardrobe, my own personal wardrobe. Do let me know what your essentials in the fall and winter are in the comments below, and help out some of the other people too. If people live in a frigid climate and you've figured out how to make that work, do let everyone know your tips in the comments below, because I just don't have many myself, luckily enough. I really just try not to leave the house when it's that cold, honestly, and I'm lucky enough that I don't usually have to. So I'm not the best to give advice on that kind of thing, but do leave your tips and tricks in the comments below for everybody else. And thank you as always for tuning in today. I'll see you all again soon. Bye.